Is coffee a bean soup? Even better, if you put cream in your coffee, is it now a chowder?
I think it's a bisque, unless you left the coffee beans in. Hello and welcome to Let Me Look That Up, the show where we use the internet to try to answer life's trivial questions. I'm Allison, I'm the host, and I have looked that up.
I'm Tristan, I have the internet, and I will look that up.
And I'm Giovanni. They took away my phone and my smartwatch, so I know nothing.
So we've all been there before, right? Sitting around with a couple of friends and suddenly that random question pops up. Like, where did gargoyles come from anyway?
Inevitably, someone ends up pulling out their phone to see if they can find an answer. That's what the show's all about. Just a few friends trying to find the answers to life's mysteries. Like Abraham Lincoln said, you can trust everything you learn on the internet. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about soups, stews, chilies, and possibly more. So to get us started off today, I have a question for y'all. What are your feelings on soup?
It's not a summer food.
True.
Soups are like a winter, like keep warm and enjoy yourself. Be cozy.
Some people will eat soup all year round, and I can't get behind that.
As a person who works during meal times, I do like soups because you can like drink them out of a can or drink them out of a coffee mug.
Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about soup's portability as a defining feature. I guess it really depends on how like chunky the experience is.
Yeah, didn't Campbell's try a whole thing with that where they like tried to market that you could just drink right out of the can?
Did they really?
Yeah, I think so.
I am not aware of this. Okay, so favorite soups.
My top two favorites are split pea, and then I'd have to say like potato soup.
Ooh, potato's a classic. That's probably in my favorites, like a good baked potato, bacon potato type thing. And then probably have to go with the classic chicken noodle as well.
Yeah, with or without corn for the potato soup, though. That's the real question.
I'm a big fan of corn, so I'm okay with corn in just about everything. So potato soup, corn, absolutely. I'd put corn on a baked potato too, so, you know.
Yeah, I like a taco, not a taco, but what's the word that I'm looking for?
Tortilla?
Tortilla soup. There you go. I just so you know, real quick, I did look it up. There is a Campbell's drinkable soup on the go.
That's amazing. Researcher, have you found like a slogan or a logo? Like, how did they try to sell this?
I haven't found that yet, but you can buy it at Target.
They're still making it?
It's
Crazy.
still in existence. Portable soup.
It's called sipping soup.
Hey, you know, if you're a real soup connoisseur, you don't sip.
Chugging soup didn't test market as well.
Hey guys, after the show, we're gonna do
Soup
gonna do some soup shots.
I know it's summertime, so we may sort of summertime. So it may have been a while, but do you remember the most recent soup you've had?
Potato soup. Or maybe potato chowder, depending on what we define chowder as.
I think I had ramen last. I think ramen was the last soup.
Is
that I
ramen
had.
a soup?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if ramen is a soup, then I've had ramen recently.
All right. So now is the part where I was going to introduce like the core question of today, which was going to be, is chili a soup? But I feel like we're kind of at a more fundamental, what is a soup?
What is soup?
Right. So my question now is, at what point does the marinara sauce become so wet that spaghetti is a soup?
Oh, okay. All right. Is super wet marinara sauce spaghetti a soup?
Suddenly I don't want spaghetti anymore.
It's a spaghetti soup, a tomato soup with spaghetti noodles?
Is SpaghettiOs a soup? Or is it a noodle?
It's both, right?
SpaghettiOs does not fall into soup category for me. I mean, I guess it's not any different than alphabet soup. It's just a different shape. There's no letters except for O.
It's a very liquidy base with noodles in it.
All right, does the temperature of the liquidiness matter? Because you have some soups that are like pretty gelatinish at room temperature or refrigerator temperature, and then they become very drippy at hot temperature.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, you've got gazpacho.
Which is just cold.
Right.
Which includes noodles, if I remember correctly. No, wait, yes?
Really?
Gazpacho. Somebody describe gazpacho quick.
A cold soup.
It has bread in it, right? Hold on.
There's got to be at least one bean. I know that.
I did not pre-prepare on gazpacho, so Tristan, it's all yours.
Tristan, please look that up. What is gazpacho?
How do you spell Gestapo? Nope, that's
Very different podcast.
Absolutely not.
First of all, gazpacho is not spelled the way that I thought it was, but I found it. Hold on, I'm reading a recipe.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, for some reason, ramen and soup never were in the same category for me. But I guess it's based in a salty water liquid, so why not?
It's a broth with stuff in it.
Right.
Okay, gazpacho: tomatoes, cucumber, bell pepper, bread, and seasonings.
Okay, so if bread is a pasta, then yes. But if bread's not a pasta, then no.
I think this sounds like a question for a different episode, but I feel pretty confident going in with bread is not a pasta.
Bread is not a pasta. Okay,
Bread is not a pasta. A pasta might be bread.
Pasta might be a bread, but not all bread is
pasta. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so gazpacho does not have pasta in it.
Yes.
I didn't mention it earlier, but I love a clam chowder.
Yes.
In a noodle bowl.
Because we all know noodles are bread, right?
Noodles are well known for their ability to hold soup within them.
A sourdough noodle bowl.
I love a chowder and a sourdough noodle. Yeah, it's so good.
I guess maybe if it was just one really big noodle, it would work.
So for me, soup and stew, the difference is partially the size of the chunks. A stew has larger chunks, and a soup has smaller chunks, obviously. And then I don't know what else do you got? The amount of time cooking, maybe. Stew, if you sit there and stew about something, you're sitting there for a while thinking about it. So a stew's got to take some time.
Yeah, a stew probably sits overnight, right? Like a soup is I made a soup, and then a stew is like, hey, yesterday I put some stuff in the kettle.
So if you just overcook a tortilla soup, it's now a tortilla stew?
I think it's all of those things added together.
Oh, okay. You got to do both.
Yeah.
So when it comes to chowder, it's just got to be about the milk, right? No, because there's red chowder. There's the red clam chowder, New England clam chowder, Boston clam chowder.
Bostonians.
Those ones.
Yeah, what's the thickening agent?
Yeah, but I've seen non-thick chowder.
Can a chowder be non-thick?
Yeah. I think it's just the corn. The corn makes a chowder a chowder.
Okay, so if you got a bunch of corn and you stuck it in a bowl and you blended it all together and it's just
Chowder.
Corn blend. Chowder? Okay.
Next time I'm at Thanksgiving and somebody brings the corn casserole, I'm going to ask for the chowder.
Or creamed corn, for you, that's soup in a can. It's a chowder in a can.
Hey, could you pass the chowder, please? Thanks.
When I was tackling this question, I first turned to Merriam-Webster because I figured what we needed was some definitions. So soup, a liquid food, especially with a meat, fish, or vegetable stock as a base, and often containing solid pieces of food.
All right. That just threw a whole wrench in my gear works here. Because when we make stock, we stew it overnight. So if a soup requires stock, you got to stew the vegetables to make a soup?
Maybe all soups are stews.
Well, at least have a stew component.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into stew. Merriam-Webster was confused on stew. Their first definition was a utensil used for boiling, parentheses, obsolete. I feel like that probably shouldn't have been number one if it's the obsolete definition.
Right. Go ahead and put that down to number 5.
Definition number 2 was a hot bath. Still not useful, Merriam-Webster.
Just any general hot bath. A jacuzzi is a stew. I don't want stew anymore.
It gets worse. Definition number 3, a brothel.
Oh, no.
Are you sure this is an Urban Dictionary? You might be on the wrong website.
This was Merriam-Webster. And then, finally, fish or meat, usually with vegetables, prepared by stewing. Merriam-Webster. You are not
what's
allowed
the definition of stewing?
to use the verb for thing in your definition of the thing.
If I remember correctly, nouns become verbs more often than verbs become nouns. So they are taking the thing that came from the verb and putting it back into the verb.
That does appear to be what they have done.
That feels wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I went over to the verb, and it is to boil slowly or with simmering heat. So lending credence to your
the overnight thing.
Slow cooking overnight.
Yeah.
So going from tasteofhome.com, they lay out the difference as is a liquid-based dish where the ingredients are boiled in water, stock, or broth to meld and enhance the dish's flavors. While a stew, they emphasize larger pieces of meat and then partially covered in the cooking liquid and then simmered. So the amount of cooking liquid is essential to what makes a stew a stew. So in adding some nuance to that, Pillsbury.com comes in with the liquid in soup. The liquid is the main deliverer of the ingredients. It can be completely liquefied or have other elements.
Like
Stew, however, the ingredients are chunkier, and while the overall dish includes liquid, it's not the featured piece.
Gotcha. So it's like the relationship between the chunks and the liquid, how much time they spent together, do they know each other's deep, dark secrets, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's based on percentage of chunks to liquid.
Yeah, it's all about that chunk liquid ratio.
We can go with a beef and potato stew. That makes sense to me.
Yes.
And then we can go the other extreme of just like potatoes blended with salt water, and then we have a soup. Those are the two extremes. Like,
yes.
Help me find that middle. Where's the line between the soup and the stew?
Well, yeah, let's bring in the chowder definition. Let's use that as a transition.
Tristan, can you go ahead and look these up on Urban Dictionary, and if they're at all radio appropriate, let me know.
Merriam-Webster, I almost said Urban Dictionary, got thrown off there. So Merriam-Webster defines a chowder as a soup or stew of seafood, such as clams or fish, usually made with milk or tomatoes, salt pork, onions, and other vegetables. It doesn't even mention corn.
That's the worst definition.
Okay.
What is corn chowder then? Does it have to have seafood in it?
According to Merriam-Webster, yes.
All right, well,
And then it also says, also a soup resembling a chowder.
A chowder is anything that somebody might call a chowder.
Like Merriam-Webster was not the authority I was hoping it would be on this particular topic.
I feel a little betrayed.
Yes. So Pillsbury came in a little bit more helpful on this front. So it said it was a chowder is a type of soup or stew that's often prepared with milk, cream, and butter and thickened with a roux, crackers, or hard biscuits. So a thickened milk is the essential. And they also feature chunky ingredients and a thicker, creamier texture, more like a stew than a soup.
Okay, Tristan, I got more research for you to do. Obviously, I want to do the research, but you took my phone away. How is red chowder a chowder if it needs to be thickened? Do they use the biscuits? Is that what they use to thicken?
Right.
Who knows?
Okay, real quick, if I could interject for a moment.
Sure.
Please.
Just for the fun of it.
I don't like where this is going.
Urban Dictionary definitions of soup. The first one, the top definition, it's soup.
Thank you. You're about as helpful as Merriam-Webster.
Yeah.
Just a little more honest about it, you know?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the red chowder now?
All right, I'm currently looking up the difference between the red chowder and chowder thing.
Yeah, because in my memory, like the red chowder has no milk in it.
So cookingclarified.com also weighed in on the chowder debate, and it was characterized by a thick consistency with additional chunky seafood, potatoes, or other vegetables.
I think chowders are even more loosely defined than soups because it can have milk or tomato as the base, right?
So you know what I think happened? I think that the tomato chowder folks rolled up, and I apologize, tomato chowder folks. You can yell at me later. So they rolled up and they're like, we got a chowder. And everyone was like, no, you don't. You got a tomato soup. And they're like,
And
no,
they
it's
just
a
doubled
chowder. And they just kept calling it a chowder until everyone was like, it's a cream thick soup, or it's that thing that tomato chowder people have. I guess we'll give it to them.
Or like a mom made dinner, and she usually made, like clam chowder, and she ran out of milk, and she's like, no, it's still chowder. Deal with it, kids. It's still chowder.
Still
and then it
chowder.
just stuck.
Yeah. Well, what's a good replacement for milk?
Tomatoes, honestly.
I strongly disagree with this hypothetical mother.
Tomato, the dairy of fruit?
Oh, you're gonna summon a new milk substitute into being, and it's gonna be tomatoes.
Not even close.
Yeah, let's. You can get milk, you can get almond milk, you can get coconut milk, or you can get tomato milk.
Tomato juice.
milk.
Because you make chowder with it, obviously. All right, so since we've gotten this far into it, what is bisque?
Oh, okay. One moment, please. All right. Bisque, a thick cream soup made with shellfish or game.
So what I'm hearing is chowder.
It is pureed. Is the it is
So they don't have the
smooth.
chunks.
Yeah, chunkless chowder.
I would like to make an addendum to that definition. So I would say a thick cream or tomato soup made with shellfish or game. Bisque.
It does seem like there's general agreement that cream is essential to the bisque, like there is not with chowder.
Hold on. We've been claiming that potato soup might be a chowder, but potato soup might be a bisque.
What game?
I mean, I think it depends
I don't
on
put
what
any seafood.
Definition 1 is a thick soup made with shellfish or game. B is a cream soup of pureed vegetables.
For bisque?
For bisque. Or it's ice cream containing powdered nuts or macaroons.
Words mean nothing.
It's a dessert bisque.
Would you like your starter bisque? Here is the nut-filled ice cream. This is not what I was expecting.
I'm opening an ice cream store, and I'm just having soup names for all my ice cream.
So I think, Tristan, the question of potato soup really comes down to whether or not you're breaking out the blender.
So next time you guys come over, if I offer you potato soup, I could say, I could biscuit, and you might think of either a cookie or a little bread thing that you put gravy on. But really what I'm asking is do you want me to blend this potato soup for you?
Or are you going to put it on some ice cream?
Or am I going to put it on some ice cream for you? Nobody knows.
I think I prefer my potato soup more on the chowder end of the spectrum as opposed to the bisque.
Yeah, if it comes down to a stew potato soup or a bisque potato soup, I'm a stew guy.
Yeah.
This episode has led me to the conclusion that words mean nothing.
Yes.
And I can say whatever I want, whenever I want, and as long as somebody understands it, then it counts.
I think that there's some truth to that. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
This really flies in the face of one of my core beliefs of people should have specificity in language, like communicate clearly. But now there's no such thing as clear. Clear could mean dark for all we know.
Language is a medium for communication more than a medium of definition is what I'm getting. The important thing is, does the other person know what you're talking about when you say the thing?
I didn't expect to have an existential crisis today. Thanks, guys. So I've actually come out of this episode knowing less about the difference between soup and stew and chowder and chili than I did going in. I was pretty confident going in. I guess ignorance is bliss.
If you have strong feelings about chili, soup, chowder, bisque, stews, let us know.
Yes.
Or just potatoes or tomatoes in general.
Yeah, is tomato a good milk substitute?
I have strong opinions on that one. Anyone have any concluding thoughts before we end this confusing soup of an episode?
I don't know if I've learned anything or if I've just become more confused. So you have to stew your soup, but if there's not enough liquid, then you're just making a stew. And if it's thick, then you've got a chowder.
Probably.
And if it's pureed, then it's a bisque.
Maybe.
All right.
Great. Glad we solved that mystery. Wait, the original question is, what is chili? We didn't even touch the mystery.
What have we learned today? Nothing. We haven't learned anything.
We've learned that Merriam-Webster is not always a reliable resource. Well, regardless of whether or not we learned, I had a fun time exploring with you guys.
If you have any burning questions that you'd like us to discuss or know more about today's topic or just have some opinions about it, reach out on our social media on Twitter and Instagram at Let Me Look That Up or on Facebook at Let Me Look That Up Pod. You can use the hashtag Look That Up and we might read your message during the listener lookups next week. Speaking of listener lookups, this is the section where you, the listener, get to participate with us. Last week, we talked about barbershop polls, and our friend Vincent on Instagram reached out, and he said that he looked it up a little bit more. And if you remember, we talked a little bit about candy stripers and if they were connected to barbershop polls and that whole representation of the stripes and all of that. And he said that it's apparently due to just some donated material that had the striped pattern, and it just kind of stuck. So thanks, Vincent, for looking that up for us. If you want to participate, go ahead and send your messages to us directly. Be sure to subscribe. If you like the show and want to give us some support, you can buy us a coffee. The link is in the show description or on our website at letmelookthatup.com. We'll see you next week on Let Me Look That Up.
I'm Allison.
I'm Tristan.
And I'm your bisky boy, Giovanni.
Oh, SpaghettiOs is a chowder.
SpaghettiOs is a chowder, and it's in the dairy aisle.